welcome to the very first incantation of Spellcast, presented by Web3 Spell. I am Aksh, your resident arcane archivist, and sitting across the table from me is my fellow cyber mage, Rhythm.
What's up, everyone? Today we are cooking a very special episode and we will be diving into the forbidden forest of blockchain to look at the very dark arts of privacy and the hyperspeed execution. The Web2 data monopoly is basically crumbling at real time, and we are in 2026, and Gen Z isn't looking into the standard financial vaults anymore. They don't want a savings account. They treat the on chain world like a massive, huge multiplayer opportunity.
Exactly. When you look at the data globally, over half of Gen Z owns or has interacted with crypto, but they aren't doing the old buy and hold boomer strategy, right? They are actively minting, trading, and gaming on high throughput chains like Solana. To keep up with that, the infrastructure has to evolve from a slow, clunky ledger into a real time gaming engine.
And to basically help us navigate through these digital lines, we have summoned a true wizard in the show. We have Jonas Chen from the Magicblock. He's been heavily involved into growing the Solana ecosystem, and Jonas is a DevRel at the Magicblock Guild. Everyone, please just welcome Jonas Chen at Spellcast.
Jonas, man, it is so good to have you here.
Thank you, guys. Straight out of the forest of Singapore, I'm dialing in. I think you set the stage already. I have nothing more to say. So
Let's move it on.
All right. So Jonas, let's hit you up with your origin story. If you had your hands down in the Solana ecosystem, you have been diving into the ecosystem for a while now and organizing hackers and builders at Metacam DAO previously, but recently you made the jump to the Magic Block. You focus on the ephemeral roll-ups and fully on-chain gaming. What was the technological promise or maybe the bottleneck you were sick of seeing that lured you into this specific lane of privacy?
wow. Okay. First things first. I entered Solana in 2022. Seeing Solana being one of the chains that actually has developed a position of becoming the payment infrastructure on the blockchain. Previously, we had Bitcoin and Ethereum, and both very clunky in terms of speed and cost. So that's why I dived into the rabbit hole and educated people about Solana, and at the same time learning about Solana. I think the best way to learn is to teach other, because you teach, you have to really understand and you have to answer the questions that everybody has who's new. So that's actually the best driver to get into something. And recently, my two friends, the co-founders of Magicblock, I've met them through Metacamp because we organized events and hackathons. And I joined them because they started to play out in the whole infrastructure game of Solana. I was super excited about the whole promise of real-time, zero fees on a blockchain, which is excelling what Solana has been doing already with 400 milliseconds and a few cents. But the problem is, right, if you want to bring the masses, like the Web2 applications that we know of, Uber, chat applitions like WhatsApp, Instagram, social media, all these kind of applications that want to benefit from composability, right, and the access to the financial rails that Solana has already created, not only the payment rails, but also the DeFi rails, then you need something even faster. So Magicblock gives this, fulfills this promise of sub 10 milliseconds, block time on a blockchain on Solana, and zero fees, and way more, what you mentioned around privacy. We realized that real time and zero fees is not enough. We have to push harder. So we implemented features or value propositions in regards to on-chain verifiable randomness or on-chain privacy, where you can set, similar to, as you know, in the access control list, specific files or specific PDAs on Solana dates accounts, and describe or define who has access. Does the person only can read the transaction, the balances, and so on. So all these things you can now do on the blockchain to hide specific information, and this will unlock, or this is unlocking already a new category of applications on Solana.
Yeah, man. That
Yeah.
makes total sense. If you have to understand something, try teaching it, right? And it perfectly ties into the cultural shift we are seeing, right? From a DevRel perspective, you are talking to builders every day, you are talking to devs every day. How much of this push is for zero latency, gasless infrastructure, is being driven by this Gen Z paradigm? The fact that the next wave of users expects a blockchain app to feel as smooth and instant as a Web2 mobile game. How do you see it?
The question was what kind of questions I get from developers, or what
Yeah.
was the question here exactly? Okay,
Yeah, what kind of questions you get from Gen Z devs, the Gen Z paradigm which is going around here?
I see. I think first of all, I wish there are not too many questions sometimes, because that means that everything goes well, right? If there's no question, everybody, because nowadays people inform themselves around ChatGPT, Google, and the docs, so they actually find what they're looking for. Once they encounter something that cannot be solved, they usually ask questions like, "Hey, why is this not working? Can we somehow fix that?" Um, yeah, so that's one. But two, regarding your questions in case of use cases, I think what I hear is a lot of positive feedback that like, wow, Magicblock is so fast. Wow, I don't need to pay fees. Oh, randomness is so fast. Oh, it's so much cheaper than other solutions. Oh, I can hide uh, like states. Like, how does it work? Like they're like, wow, there's so many things that we can do on the blockchain, and they're testing it out, testing the waters, and they're joining us on these hackathons, the Bits hackathons that we organize every month, previously every 2 to 3 weeks, where we give prizes to starters like developers, builders who would like to explore what actually Magicblock can offer to them, and win a few, how to say, $1,000 on the way.
Yeah, that's great. All right, now let's move to something like private ephemeral rollups. That is one of the UEPs of the Magic Block. You know, uh, the old ways of doing privacy were very slow. Zero knowledge proofs are incredible, but mathematically they feel like we are speaking in an incredibly complex riddle, right? They take too much of compute to generate. And Jonas, can you just break the spell for us? Why are hardware isolated trust executive environments, basically T's, specifically utilizing like Intel TDX, the superior invisibility cloak for real time, like low latency applications compared to ZKPs?
Okay. I mean, there's a few privacy solutions, as you mentioned. The reason why we have decided for trusted execution environments secured by Intel TDX is one, it's much faster. I mean, for ZK, you need computational power, and there's some cost to it, right? And here with hardware, it's something that yeah, you can run your usual code, and it's protected through, let's say, brick and mortars. Like if you go to a data center, how are they protected? They are protected through walls, security layers, whatever. Like so many checks before you can actually go into a database. So if you look into the real world implementations nowadays, like how are things protected in the military, in the like any kind of like sensitive data for the government, they're all protected through hardware, like kind of like a hard wall. And if you look into Ledger, right, same thing. If you are storing your private key on your computer versus on this Ledger device, right? So why are you buying a Ledger device or not use your computer and put CK on it to store any sensitive information, right? So there's a certain trust element to hardware, and also there's less attack vectors on what you can do against a hardware if the hardware has been like battle tested, and the Intel TDX is one of the hardwares that has been battle tested while promising like all these benefits of speed. And I think one thing is, even though ZK is kind of like the new direction of preserving privacy, the open end implications or possibilities are kind of like scary, because if you prove ZK works, there are ways, because it's computational software algorithms, there may be ways in the future how you can crack it, right? And how you find loopholes, because it's software. It's much more malleable, and you have much more attack like surface area for that. While with hardware, it's quite tough. Like if it's secured, then you need to find the usual ways in getting into it, which is having the hardware and somehow find a way to scan. And there are a few other trusted execution environments in previous Intel products that has been hacked, kind of like not hacked, but kind of like indirectly scanned and from inside, because you treat it as a black box, but you still can measure magnetic waves, right? While you're writing data and reading data to it. But with the Intel TDX, that has been resolved, so there's no risk here, or like, I would never say zero risk, but much less risk than ZK can provide, and also the previous generations of trusted execution environments. So I think we are at the stage of technology where this technology can be utilized in a mature and secure way, similar as healthcare institutions, government institutions have tapped on these hardware secured elements.
So yeah, basically it is massive because it keeps the live game intact, right? You aren't waiting for 3 minutes for a proof to generate, but as a developer, how does this actually look in practice?
It's quite simple actually. So with ephemeral rollups, you work on the SVM, so it's still Solana virtual machine. You actually don't deploy similar to like other rollups that you hear of, like layer twos, like Arbitrum. Usually you have this problem of fragmentation of assets and also the logic. So basically you need to deploy on Ethereum, you need to deploy on Arbitrum, and there are two separate contracts, right? And they have two separate assets that they accumulate, and they cannot talk to each other. While on Magicblock, it's all on Solana, and everything needs to be on Solana. And the ephemeral rollup is basically an environment that synchronizes the state between Solana and the ephemeral rollup. It takes the accounts, or the program accounts and the state accounts that has been accumulated or stored on Solana, just in time, copies over, clones it over to the ephemeral rollup, and treat it as if you would be submitting transaction on Solana. So basically what you could do is you can have the same instruction set, the same pub keys, the same instruction data, and utilize that you usually use on Solana, and then you use it on the ephemeral rollup without any changes. And that makes this whole experience much easier for developers to kind of switch, because you don't need to change instructions, and it's much smoother. The only thing that you may need to change is basically where you submit the transaction, either to Solana RPCs or ephemeral rollup RPCs. But at this stage, we're also looking into routers, where you basically have this Solana RPC that implements this open source router that can smartly detect whether the transactions should be submitted on Solana or ephemeral rollup, and routes it to it. So you, as a developer, have only one endpoint that you're talking to, while the rest is handled. And you can decide whether you want to switch to Fastlane ephemeral rollup or back. And the private ephemeral rollup here is basically a trusted execution environment where the ephemeral rollup is basically located, with another layer, which is not only the synchronization layer, but also the authentication layer, where we basically do this checks on, like, are you the person with this pub key, with this signature? And yes, if it is, then you have read access and write access to the ephemeral rollup inside the T, which we call private ephemeral rollup. And as a developer, if you want to switch, or if you want to basically migrate, no, let's not say migrate, but want to enhance your program. You just need to add hooks into your program, like additional code, a few lines to make it accessible in the firmware rollup. So that's basically how it works. You will say, oh, I need to add a delegation hook. So basically, in that delegation hook, you change the owner. Through our SDK, we have a delegation hook where you basically change the owner from the program that it is currently owned, the PDA, to the delegation program, which is open source and audited. And with that, it will lock the account on Solana and makes it available automatically just in time in the firmware rollup to be utilized there. And you can submit, as I said, these transactions that you usually send on Solana on the firmware rollup to read states on Solana. You can even connect, you can create like something like, oh, after I did this transfer on the firmware rollup, I want to do a swap on Solana. Or after I make a private payment on the firmware rollup, I want to make atomic swap on Solana. So then you have a private swap, right? Or you can do private trading, like you trade something, you send some money to an account, and then it will trigger some private trading activities on Solana or vice versa. So these are really cool like features that you can do now on Solana.
Okay,
It's
so the
beautiful.
yeah, it's totally insane. The Magicblock is implementing various privacy features, and our devs would have now, known how to integrate those with your help. And the Magicblock doc is always up. So, now, as we know, the users are kind of lazy, especially Gen Z users. If an app forces them to, manually switch RPC networks in their Phantom wallet, or, assign an annoying pop up every single time a state changes, they are going to close the tab in 3 seconds. But, yeah, true, the fiction is the death of adoption, right? But Magic Block built the magic router to solve this. Jonas, as you have summed up the magic router concept, how does the uh, like in a manner of sorting hat of infrastructure invisibility intercept and route transaction between the Solana base layer and the ephemeral rollup without the user realizing they just transitioned between dimensions and considering it is secure?
So the question is, how do we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So I think this is only possible in Solana, first of all. So that's why you don't see similar solutions actually on other kind of like blockchains. And the reason why is Solana has this concept of one is state separation of the state and logic separation. So you have program logic stored on a program account, and you have state stored in a state account, right? So these are separate, and the state accounts are basically PDAs, program derived addresses, that which is kind of like off the curve, which allows you to basically make changes on that state through the program, through the program, because it will basically use the seed to sign transactions. So that's how it works on Solana. That's number one. Number two is the account meta. So account meta, on every transaction, you can see which accounts are being utilized, whether it's read, write, or whether it's a signer. And because of that, um, yeah, you can basically see which state accounts and are writable, and which state accounts are readable before the transaction has been even submitted. And once a router or RPC receives that, he can basically check, given his account DB or his accounts that he has, like he can check, okay, which accounts are writable. Okay, he will go through the PDAs that are writable, right? And if the owner of that PDA or the writable accounts, of all the writable accounts, are not the delegation program, which they are not delegated, then it will be executed on Solana, right? Because it's a normal transaction. If the owners of all the writable accounts are the delegation program, that means, oh, okay, I'm dealing here with delegated accounts, right? And write to delegated accounts. So therefore, this transaction needs to be routed to the firmware rollup. And there's a third case, which is if there's a mix of owners which are accounts that are writable, which is the original account in the delegation program, then this transaction will fail because, yeah, here in this case, it's somebody is creating a wrong transaction, and therefore this will definitely fail. And yeah, because of that, we can smartly route these transactions, yeah, or DevX, so you don't need to deal with any RPCs.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
totally makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So the hourglass is running empty, and our pocket dimension is gonna crack back to the mainnet. Jonas, this has been an absolute masterclass in cryptographic wizardry. You have shown us that we don't have to compromise. We can have total L1 composability, hyperspeed execution, and private data states.
Yeah, for all the developers, hackers, and degens that are listening right now, who are casting their first spell or are experts and building on top of SVM or just testing out like Slimecoin and Interstellar Command. So where should they direct their portals? Can you give them some docs links of the magic block, and where they should first of all go and check about the magic block if they are introduced as a beginner, first of all.
So there are few steps that you can take. So one of the things that we can provide for you guys, besides these Blitz hackathons, where you can win money and test the waters, you can explore actually existing applications that we have already in our ecosystem and earn points for whatever reason you want to earn points. There are rewards, right, at some point. So we have a page called quest.magicblock.app. Here you can kind of check out different applications on Solana. Obviously, the main website. If you really want to get building, check out docs.magicblock.app or docs.magicblock.xyz. Here we have also like one of the tabs you can find events and hackathons, so you can follow us and or even just build on yourself. And once you're ready, or once there's an event, you can just take that what you have been building and register or apply to the event to win your chances. Our main goal is to help you succeed. So we have also this magic incubator program where we want you, basically from your MVP that you built, we want to help you to distribute it to the users for free. Like the Quest has already given projects 1,000 users for free, basically. And after that, we also want you to get ready for fundraising, for the real go-to-market, and make yourself independent, right? And fulfill your vision and your passion that you have, and bring you with other people's that have similar visions or like similar ambitions like you together, and pitch you in front of investors so you can show everybody that you are the winner, and help you to become the next, hopefully Elon Musk or whoever, or even succeed Elon Musk in this area. So we really want to just support you guys, and I think we have a lot of things there for you. So check it out. So one thing, maybe the website, magicblock.xyz. You can check out the docs from there and all our events, and also the Quest page to kind of explore, learn, build, try, and error, and succeed.
Right. Nice one. C tier Elon Musk. Amazing, man.
Alright, so that's all for the first podcast of Spellcast, guys. Remember, in a dark forest, your best defense is an invisibility cloak, and your best weapon is speed. Keep your private keys safe and your states composable and your code compiled. Jonas, thank you for joining us. Yeah.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
thank you for having me.
everyone. The transmission is sealed until the next incantation, until we meet again. Thank you, Jonas, once again for joining us.